And now we are on to our final session and our final speaker of this year's Canadian Potato Summit. Judith Naranja is an AAFC scientist specializing in soil health, and she will be sharing research comparing various regenerative soil management practices and their effects on potato yield. So welcome, Judith, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Bri, for the introduction and for the invitation also to share our research update on soil health and potato yield responses on two regenerative soil practices. So I would like to acknowledge the collaborators from AFC in Charlottetown, Fredericton, PI Potato Board, and the PI Department of Agriculture and Land, University of Prince Edward Island, and watershed group associations, and many participating growers. So a little bit of background, just to understand our rationale, but also to understand the results. So as you all know, the soil is a very important reservoir of organic carbon or soil organic matter. So it can play a big role in mitigating climate change, the global warming due to increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. A soil with high organic matter also is healthy. It does have improved soil structure that allows to resist to soil erosion and has a faster water infiltration. It can also help it to resist to drought period because it has a higher water retention capacity. It has improved the nutrient cycling and also improved biological activity. So people ask me, mostly growers, why do I implement good management practices, but yet I don't see increasing soil organic matter? There are two factors we need to take in mind to consider. So we have the mineralization rate of soil organic matter that is going to be higher in sandy soils than in clay soils. So this mineralization rate, of course, will depend on many factors, including your soil aeration, the soil pH, the nutrient content. But we can say we can have a mineralization rate of 2.5% in sandy soils and 1% in clay soil per year. So if we put this in a context, let's say we have a soil with 3% of soil organic matter, and we consider a plowing depth of 20 centimeter and bulk density of 1.4 ton per meter cubic. And we are talking about mineralization rate of 2%. So we are seeing around 1.7 metric ton per hectare per year. So those are annual losses. Of course, we depend on your soil and your cropping systems. Some soil will face higher losses than this, but we tend to forget that this annual mineralization of soil organic matter is a fact, it's there. The other thing is that the cover crops or any other crop residues we incorporate in the soil, only a small fraction of the carbon in our crop residues will end in our soil organic carbon. So we are talking about retention factors of 10% or 15%. More importantly, we need to see that if we are dealing with organic amendment, such as well-decomposed manure, the retention factor can be as high as 50%. So not surprisingly, that's why we can improve our soil organic matter quickly by incorporating organic amendment than crop residues. So combining several soil regenerative management practices might be the key. This is a slide from my colleague from Living Lab, Quebec, and they did a modeling seeing the dynamics of organic matter over 100 years. So, of course, it's based on soil type. Here we are dealing with a clay soil, clay loam, with above 4% of soil organic matter. So if we were in a corn soybean rotation and you don't do anything, so you can see the line here, so the business as usual. But you can also implement several management practices. So in your corn soybean rotation, you can have a non-till system. You can intercrop radish in corn. You can add animal manure. You can also grow winter wheat, or you can also include pea radish cover crop after winter wheat. So you can see there is a cumulative effect of these management practices. So I really like this slide, but it does not mean if you change the soil and you change the soil systems, the cropping systems, you are going to see this, but it is showing probably combining different management practices, it's going to give you better results. So my presentation will focus on two studies. The study number one, we compared full season cover crop with and without manure. And the second study, we compared the primary non-invasion shallow tillage, and we compared it with moorboard plowing. So both studies were funded by Living Lab Atlantic. So I'm gonna give few more details on study number one. So we do have here full season cover crop. In these systems, potato is grown once every 3 years. So this cover crop, this 80 treatment, we also included a negative control with a bare soil over 2 years. They are supposed to reflect what the growers are testing in their farm. So we do have grasses, we do have legumes, we do have a mixture of legumes and grasses. And we do have a section that has manure for a total of 72 plots. So the manure we applied comes once every 3 years. So that is the beginning of our cover crop. And we applied pen pack cow manure at 20 metric ton per hectare. I'm not going to present results for all our treatment, but we are focusing on 4 treatment. So we have the first one, which is barley underseeded with annual ryegrass, and we have sorghum Sudan grass in second year and potato in third year. In another treatment, we have pearl millet instead of sorghum Sudan grass. Another treatment, we have barley underseeded with red clover, and then we have red clover growing the second year. And then the last treatment, we have a 3-way mixture of brome grass, orchard grass, and common veg. And then we have the forage growing in the second year. These contrasted treatments were selected for one reason. There are previous studies that demonstrated that pearl millet and sorghum Sudan grass can boost yield, mostly because they are not hosting the same disease as potato, specifically from botulism nematodes. The last treatment here, they are also good because they are reducing the tillage intensity because the soil can rest in the second year without being tilled. So the objective for this is to assess the carbon stock and soil health change after 6 years. So the carbon stock, basically, you just need the soil density and carbon concentration. So an equipment to measure carbon concentration. And for the soil density, we just use a slide hammer with a soil core, or we use a tractor-mounted hydraulic coring machine. And we are focusing on three soil health metric, the soil respiration, that is reflecting the metabolic activity of the soil microbial community, and aggregate stability, and active carbon, that's the fraction that is representing the easily available food source for soil microbes. So going to results, so we assessed the carbon stock at a depth of 0 to 30 centimeter depth. So we found that the carbon stock values were comparable among treatments. So even after 6 years, we did not see significant difference among our treatments. The soil respiration values were comparable, but we did see some trends toward higher values with pearl millet and sorghum Sudan grass. Aggregate stability, we did see higher values, pearl millet and sorghum Sudan grass than other treatments. For the active carbon, again, we see comparable values. And we did use these anion exchange membranes, and we stored them after incorporating our cover crop in fall prior to growing potatoes. These are really helpful to reflect the mineralization rate, the nitrogen mineralization from our cover crop. So we leave them in the fall and we pick them up in spring. And not surprisingly, we did see higher value with red clover than mixture or grasses. And this trend was also confirmed when we evaluated the mineral nitrogen in spring before growing potatoes. So this implies that red clover can increase the nitrate leaching risk compared to mixture or grasses. How about yield? So the marketable potato yield in 2024, we observed that pearl millet was showing higher yield, but was comparable with the mixture than the barley underseeded with red clover. And this is consistent with our previous results. The red clover is increasing the soil nitrogen supply capacity, but this is not reflecting increased yield. So it could be that the higher soil nitrogen supply under red clover is extending the vegetative growth of potatoes, delaying tuber formation. And because we have a very short growing season, our season does not allow to use the potential of soil nitrogen we have in the system. When we assessed the effect of manure on some soil health metrics, we could see a clear trend of improved soil health with manure. We did see that the manure did increase the carbon stock by 6%, the soil respiration by 13%, and active carbon by 11%. So after 6 years, we don't see significance between manure and no manure, but the trend is there and is clear. So let's move to our second study where we compared primary non-invasion shallow tillage with moldboard plow. So as you know, the non-invasion, also called the vertical tillage, does not flip the sod. So we have more residues on the soil surface, and this can reduce soil erosion and increase water retention. The moldboard plow, on the other hand, does flip the sod. So we have the residues buried in deeper soil layer, and then we can have increased soil erosion and the faster soil organic matter decomposition. This component was conducted in commercial fields, so we are really thankful to the participant. And because this was conducted in commercial fields, we did use strips. So we were lucky to have growers who have both equipment for motorboard plow and for shallow tillage. So they basically split their field in half, and one side with one tillage regime. Where you are seeing the yellow sign, that's where we do our crop and soil sampling. And we implemented a transect in the field. So those are the pseudo replicates. And because we have 3 to 4 fields each year, we used fields as replicates. So these results were published by the American Journal of Potato Research. If someone is interested, I can share the publication. So this is a summary of the results. We were happy to see signs of improved soil health with shallow tillage. We did see that active carbon was increased by 9%, soil respiration by 26%, aggregate stability by 8%, and biological nitrogen availability by 20%. We also analyzed the potato petiole nitrate concentration during the growing season, and we saw that at flowering time, the shallow tillage did increase the value by 5%, and at post-flowering stage, the value were increased by 12%. However, for the yield and marketable yield and specific gravity, we did not see any difference between tillage regimes. Keep in mind that this shallow tillage was also done only in one growing season. So we were recruiting growers to work with us one growing season, and the study was between 2019 and 2022. So every grower, every single growing season, we were recruiting growers, so we were in different sites. So the take-home message for these two studies, I can say that it takes time to notice soil improvement following regenerative soil management practices. And sorghum, Sudan grass, and pearl millet did increase soil aggregation. The pearl millet and mixture increased marketable yield, and red clover could potentially increase nitrate leaching risk more than grasses or mixture. And there was a trend that manure improved soil health faster than cover crop. And it is worth the effort to adopt shallow non-inversion tillage over motorboard plowing. And when possible, again, I would suggest to combine multiple soil regenerative management practices for better results. So I want to thank you for your attention and for the invitation to share our results.
Well, we thank you very much, Judith, for joining us today and for everything you brought to the day. And we already have quite a few questions, although we have two questions that are actually the same, and I'm very interested in this as well. Both Rick and Karina wanted to know the source of the manure used in study number 1.
The source was from a grower who is very close to our research farm in Harrington.
I believe they're asking in terms of the type of manure, as in like the animal source.
It was a pen pack cow manure.
Cow manure, great. So now, by the way, to everyone who's watching, if you are able to now, you may scan the QR code and claim up to 2.5 CCA continuing education credits. So Brent asks, any information on microbiome changes during these studies, such as sequencing data?
Yes, we do have 2 microbiologists who have also analyzed that, but yes, they will probably present that if you give them an opportunity.
Great. Now, Griffin, who, like me, thanks you very much for your presentation. He asks, did you notice any differences in common scab levels between tillage regimes?
We do have, in these tillage regimes, we did have my colleague Rick Peters and Dahu Chen for Fredericton, who was looking at the root lesion and nematode and early dying complex. So Rick did see some feed. I can't remember how many feed. So certain feed he did see increased scab with shallow non-invasion tillage, but in his interpretation, he was saying that there are multiple factors affecting scab. So he could not really confirm that it was due to the tillage regime, but I remember he did see few feed with increased scab. And for early dying complex, my colleague did not see any significant increase with shallow non-invasion tillage.
Great. Now, Dave wants to know, were any inoculants used in any of these trials?
So inoculant for like legumes or?
He did not specify. He just asked if inoculants were used. David, if you're still online, if you want to elaborate on what kind of inoculants you're referring to.
Yeah, we did not apply any inoculant. We just did buy those cover crop seed from the supplier. So if there is any inoculant, maybe it was done before we bought them.
Great. We do have one question left. I do just want to remind folks that Judith does technically have the virtual floor until 2:45 Eastern, so do not hesitate to ask some more questions. And even if they aren't answered online, we are making all efforts to connect you with speakers, however they please, and you can always follow up after. But in the meantime, Shuang Long asks, in study number 2, did you also look at the nitrate concentration in the tubers?
So study number 2, that is the shallow tillage versus morbid plow, no. But in the study number 1, we are evaluating the nitrate in tuber.
Were there any insights that you look to gain, or
We are not. We don't have results yet because those we have a potato phase in 2024. So now they are under analysis.
Great. All right, well, we currently have no questions in the queue, but we'll hold on for just a few more moments. Reminder, folks, if you, for some reason, are having issues with this QR code, you can always email me at brody@annexbusinessmedia.com to just facilitate the claiming of your credits. And as a reminder, if you have any final questions, ensure you are typing them in the Q&A tab and not the chat. And thank you to our various speakers who have also answered some of these questions via text following the sessions. Good to see a lot of great discussion going. Give it another moment for any open questions. Oh, great. Excellent. Here comes Karina. So where could we find the reports from study 1 and 2? Are they available anywhere?
Yes, the publication from study number 2 is available online. And for this the first one with cover crop, we did publish the previous results from 2017 and 18. So I can share those presentations.